it says, during 1.5 years in silence, we managed to produce 16 projects with a minimum of economy. It's Salvatore Rosa project on June.
Sí.
And I think it explains very well your process. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you can read it, or do you want me to read it? Because I think it would be nice to have this approach.
Yeah, probably if you read it and then we comment it.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
No, or
yeah, I will do the performance. No, because it's really nice, and I think it's very clear your intentions with that text.
With yeah, I don't know. Are we online right now with the public, or? I'm sorry, but I just cannot get used to these kind of Zoom meetings, or.
Yes, we are online, Juan.
Okay.
We are hi. We are just waiting some minutes because we know some friends is coming. So as we also are having a bit problem with the technical problem, I mean, with the website, we are just turning the streaming on the YouTube page. So we just give other 5 minutes, maybe somebody is coming. So we can have, we hope, a talk after your presentation also. Yeah. Okay, and yes, of course, just for knowing, there is the chat. When somebody wants to write something, also questions during some talk, please use it because it's very useful also for us to keep a bit of record of information and something like this.
Dovrebbe rifunzionare adesso.
As I see new names, I just repeat, you are going to wait just some other minutes in order to see if somebody can arrive and enjoy the conversation. Okay. Okay. What do you think if we start? Okay. So first of all, welcome everybody. We're just trying to do a very small introduction, very short introduction before the event of today starts. And we are happy to introduce the talk Lockdown Inside a White Cube that was conceived and it is curated by Beatriz Escudero for the festival Cantieri Aperti. And just a short introduction about the festival. It was founded by the theatrical company Semicattivi in Massa, based in Massa in Tuscany, and so by the figure of the director Franco Rossi and by Stefania Gatti, who are not here, but they really would like to greet you all because they had some personal stuff, but they would like to say hi to everybody and thanks for being here. And the festival this year comes to its 7th edition. And the title is The Empty Museum, which somehow can resonate some of the motivation and the situation that we all had faced is very strange year, we might say. And the festival has a program that started in the half October with 2 exhibitions, and it's going to run over up to the end of November. So if you have some question or curiosity, you can check our social media or just write us at festivalcantieriaperti@gmail.com for any questions and doubts, and we will be happy to reply to any of your questions. And so we are now happy to start. When I say we in this situation, I mean me, Alessandra, Giulio Saverio Rossi, which is here, and Gabriele Tosi, because we are the curators of a kind of sub-project inside Cantieri Aperti, which is named Bar Ecuador. And this event is part of Bar Ecuador, and especially was named like portfolio review. It's the 2nd year we have this kind of project, and this year we, for the circumstances, had to turn it into the digital sphere. So we are here on this platform to discuss about, we will see what precisely, but in general, this is the first outcome, public outcome, let's say, of over 1 month of time that the curators we invited, which are Beatriz Escudero, that it's here with us, and Crypta 747 had to talk with 9 artists we selected together with 6 spaces based in Tuscany. The artists involved are Silvia L, Alice Ronchi, Marcello Spada, and Salvatore Rosa, that are here with us this evening, and Stefano De Ponti, Matteo Fato, Ruth Beraha, Michelangelo Consani, and Virginia Zanetti. And we would like to thanks a lot Incarico Massimo, Estuario Project Space, Lotto Zero, Toast Project Space, and Museo d'Inverno and Noob Project, because they helped us in this selection process, and it was a very big pleasure to collaborate with them. And also we would like to thank Regione Toscana that supports the festival with this project that is called Toscana in Contemporanea 2020, that is done in collaboration with Centro Pecci. Now, if somebody wants to add something around the festival, is welcome, because otherwise we go with a very short introduction of the participants of this evening talk. I don't know, Giulio, Gabriele? Okay, go on. So we leave the time to the artist and the curator. So Beatriz Escudero is a curator and researcher based in Barcelona, Madrid, Spain. Sorry, it is a very bad point for me. Among her research interests, there is the analysis of leisure in the society of contemporary hyperspectacle and the topic of laziness, in opposition to the hyperactivity of contemporary society, as well as the post-work analysis. And she realized several projects and among which we just name a few, as the exhibition As Wonderful, that was done at La Casa Encendida in Madrid, the Grand Tour at Sant'Andreu Contemporary in Barcelona, and So Lazy in Praise of Wasteness, awarded by La Caixa and MACBA with the curatorial prize that she realized together with Francesco Giaveri. She also has an extensive work as a researcher, that she did some important researches about the relationship between pictorial abstraction and hallucinatory phenomena, and the connection with different countercultural movement for MACBA in Barcelona, led by the curator Teresa Grandas. Shifting to the artist participants to this talk and presentation, there is Silvia L. Silvia is an artist based in Milano. She exhibited and screened her works in several events and exhibitions, among which we just again named just a few, like Festival Transart 19 at Museum Bolzano, Future Dome Milano, A+B Contemporary Art in Brescia, at Deutsche Bank for Frieze London, and Kunstverein in München, in Munich, and since 2011 she participates to the interdisciplinary project Cose Cosmiche, based in Milano, I think, too. And Alice Ronchi, she's an artist based in Milano. She studied among Amsterdam and Milano, and her works have been exhibited in solo show at the gallery Francesca Minini Milano, with whom she collaborates. And her works have been exhibited in also in group shows at Palazzo Reale Milano, at La Triennale, also in the same city, Fons Welter Gallery Amsterdam, Macro Roma, Stadtgalerie in Kiel, so in Germany, and Mambo Museum in Bologna again, and Maxi in Roma, and Fondazione Sandretto Rere Baudengo e Galleria Civica in Trento. We have also here Marcello Spada, which is an artist based between Italy and Germany. He studied in Venice, Frankfurt am Main, and Amsterdam. He exhibited his works at La Quadriennale di Roma, Hangar Bicocca in Milano, Centro Luigi Pecci in Prato, Via Farini Milano, Locale 2 Bologna, Base Firenze, and also Toast, Project Space in Firenze, Tripla Bologna, and Fondazione Bevilacqua La Masa, MMK in Frankfurt, Hamburg Bahnhof in Berlin, and Weltkulturen Museum in Frankfurt. And in 2019, he started his fellowship with Hessische Kulturstiftung, if I'm not wrong with this very bad German pronunciation. And last but not least, we have Salvatore Rosa, that I left as the last one because he has a very special, let's say, statement, more than a bio, that I would like to read now very briefly, because Salvatore Rosa is a commercial gallery. Its location is unknown to the public, inside an abandoned warehouse. We occupied it with a cube, built with used wood, drywall and waterproof case, the flyover in concrete, it's sailing. We have reconsidered the distribution, 50% artist, 30% gallery, 20% associated artist. This is my translation, maybe it's not completely perfect, so I apologize for this. And if there are no questions, I will leave the floor to Beatriz.
No? Yeah. Then, okay, well, first of all, I would like to thank a lot the team of Canteria Aperti, Alessandra, Gabriel, and Giulio for inviting me to this portfolio review and to be part of the festival. It's a pity that we have to be in contact online and not physically. It would be so nice to could benefit of the program that you have curated. But well, at least the art has to continue under these circumstances, and this is what we are doing today, no? And I'm sure that these digital events can also bring this to other people interested in and to connect with us and with the artists, no? And of course, I would like to thank all the artists involved in the portfolio reviews, because it has been a real pleasure to have little talks with all of them and to know more about their work and their interest. And of course, I had to choose some of them to organize this talk, but all of them are really interesting, and I would encourage you to follow the next talk with Crypta 747, because it will be also really enjoyable for you. And well, here in the screen you see that there's the artists that I have invited: Marcelo, Alice, Silvia, and Juan Pablo Macias. And well, we will start this talk that it takes a text as a starting point, just as an excuse to talk about some notions that are important for the contemporary art, but also to go to other notions that are part of the works of these artists. No, it's just a starting point, no, to start the debate. And the book which I'm referring is Inside the White Cube: The Ideology of the Gallery Space. The author is Brian O'Doherty, and it was first published in 1976 in the Art Forum magazine. So this book is a collection of different articles that Brian O'Doherty published in Art Forum. So it has different subjects, no, but mainly he refers to the moment of the art of the 70s. And so there are a lot of things that are missing, no? But in a way, we can relate with these practices and with the commentaries that he was explaining in that book to reflect in the practice of nowadays, no? And following these ideas described by O'Doherty, we will see and discuss some of the works of the artists. We have chosen some of them so it will be like case studies, more or less, no? And in a way that they are playing with the very notion of the white space, no? We will see some site-specific practices, also some practices that has to deal with appropriationists, and well, and also with the content, with the space, the relation with the public, and all the things that are related to the art experience. And so, well, the subject of the seminal text by Brian O'Doherty was, of course, where the white and artificial walls that have defined the paradigmatic space of the gallery since the opening of MoMA in New York in 1929. The space devoted to the exhibition of the art has been evolving in parallel with all the changes that the art since modernity was undertaking. But the main important point of O'Doherty, and that I want to quote, is that this model is at the same time that is defined and reshaped by the art. It also defines the artistic object. And O'Doherty says, and I quote, "We have now reached a point where we see not the art, but the space first." In reference to this almost sacred space, clinically white, that has the power of changing the consideration of what's displayed inside. And in that ideal space, defined by this notion of the white space, the artwork is isolated from all the substrates that could interfere with the fact that it is art. The paradigmatic space that is defining in that text of Brian O'Doherty has a very rigorous laws, no? All the whites must be painted in white. The ceilings become the source of light. Wooden floors, the floors are wooden, polished, or carpeted. The outside wall must not come in, and so all the walls must be sealed off. And of course, a very few and discrete furnitures must be at the same place in order to maintain this work isolated from the context. No? And this description, of course, can be easily recognized in most of the museums that we know. A space that is designed to be neutral and suitable for the painting as a dominant media of the modernity, but soon was linked with the idea of what was institutionalized, and also the model of the power of the social elites, and as well as the market that benefits a certain type of art that is seen as a commodity. At the same time as this model was being proposed, of course, there have always been artists that react against it and the system of the art that which represent a kind of anti-white cube strategies that we can trace, of course, in most of the conceptual and minimal practices. Here, I want to invite Marcelo Espada, whose work has a lot to do with this institutional context and this notion of the space and how the work relates with the space and also with the public in some way, no? Because one of the proposals, you were proposing a public activity for a museum. And well, of course, he is also talking about the appropriationism and this gesture of bringing ordinary objects to the art space in order to change its consideration that we can see, for example, in the collage, of course, but in Marcel Duchamp ready-made and in Claes Oldenburg, for example, which is the artist that we will talk about, because I would like you to talk a little bit about one of your works that you did in 2015, that is the Bedroom Ensemble, that is based on a suggestion, on a proposal that you did to the Museum of Modern Art in Frankfurt regarding one of the works that is exhibited there, that is the Claes Oldenburg Bedroom Ensemble. And if you can now explain a little bit what was the process with that work, and we can be in dialogue all together with that.
Yeah, sure. Hi to everybody. First of all, thanks Beatriz and thanks to all the Cantiere Party team and to everybody that managed to be not in real life but on this platform. I'm gonna talk about briefly about the Bedroom Ensemble. That is, wait a sec. That is a piece from Claes Oldenburg from 1963. It was shown first of all in New York in a gallery that actually was using a particular approach, because Sidney Janis was a gallerist in New York that was probably one of the first importing European art in New York. And he was showing works of art in a really domestic space in order to give some sort of touch of domestic touch to the view, to the context for whoever was about to buy the piece. So the Oldenburg was invited to show there, and he of course managed to make somehow a further step into this domestic aspect that was related to commercial strategy of the galleries, bringing a home, somehow a display of a home into the gallery. And what turns out is the Bedroom Ensemble. He was already working on the theme of the home. He changed completely, let's say, aesthetic from the New York time. He moved to LA during the early 60s, probably 62 or 3, more or less the same time he produced the Bedroom. But he was there for another show actually before Duomo Gallery. So what is, let's briefly, the piece, is showing for the first time in his practice a really industrial look. These are the original picture of the interior of the galleries. This is the door actually of the office, of the gallerist office. It's all about illusion. Every material is basically the replica of itself, all the surfaces, and also all the picture attached to the walls, and the objects are accelerated in perspective and also mimicking somehow like some sort of different materials from linoleum to fur. my take on this piece was, in a way, as a first instance, was trying to, in a way, involve also go back to the domestic aspect of the work and try to involve the conservation department of the MMK Museum, where a replica of this work is in the permanent collection. And this was an idea related to ask the conservation department to clean the piece during the opening hours of the museum in order to show the moment of touch of the work of art, in order to show this moment of break of the erratic aspect related to the work in general. But of course also to give back life to a piece that used to be performed in a way directly walking into it. And of course through time and probably also insurance bureaucratic issue related to the piece was not of course possible anymore to get closer and inside the tableau, this tableau of multiple illusions. It was, so the conservation department showed me the cleaning tools that they're using to maintain the piece. Of course, they are really close in a way to domestic cleaning appliances. And I tried somehow to convince them, but that was not really easy. And since I tried a quote from actually an interview from the artist in '67, he was suggesting that his work were really open to any sort of performances, considering also that Oldenburg was coming from theater as well. He was performing a lot. So somehow he was trying to open up the piece in relation to the possibility of be the background of different happening or performances. I tried to write him and to ask what he was thinking about this proposition of including the taking care of the piece within the institution as part of his work. And of course, he actually denied as the idea was drastically obscuring the original context of the work. And it was actually nice because the reply of the studio was giving me all the dimension and the material of the piece. And then I found out actually that he published a specific technical plans of all the furniture and all the room of the bedroom ensemble. What I didn't say about the bedroom ensemble is that actually what is important is also that after the show at the New York gallery, he decided to keep all the elements of the architecture and the size of the actual gallery. So the walls are painted with a specific gray that the gallerist wanted to use specifically. The carpet as well, the door as well, the shutter, everything became somehow like this historical level at the same time after the actual New York gallery disappeared. And so the piece brings together also this element, and of course his own element of research that were somehow taking starting from a Malibu hotel where he saw as a teenage rooms based on different animal skins design. So I decided basically to reproduce one of the elements of the bedroom. That was the chair, the zebra chair. And I copied, of course, I got the measure from him, and I got the texture from pictures, and I made a maquette that I could in order to somehow get the actual zebra texture. I choose the zebra chair because actually one of, I think the first furniture, like really industrial looking, that he produced in LA before the bedroom ensemble was actually this one, the leopard chair, that is from probably 1 year before. Now is in can't remember, I think is in Australia. And what happened afterwards is that the zebra chair, the copy of the zebra chair, became somehow the leftover of the conservation moment, the cleaning moment of an hypothetical museum or domestic interior. Some of the elements are not, well, let's say the purse and the leopard rain jacket are not the same. I didn't reproduce them as such. They became, the pure somehow took the, I mean, the vacuum cleaner somehow took the place of the purse, and the leopard raincoat is a different one. It's simply as someone just left it there while cleaning.
Okay, so in this case, this double appropriation strategy brings the sofa back to its origin, to the gallery, and at the same time, your gesture brings it back to the domestic environment, as well. And it's very interesting in that project, all the layers that you were mentioned of the history of the first show, and also how this work has changed its meaning or its appreciation in a context of the institution or in the gallery and all that, And I think this was part of my interest of this work, And maybe we can also talk about another of your works, that is camouflage fire extinguisher, and that is a work from 2016, and that is also work that is displayed in another museum, at the Rijksmuseum. And I would like to read one of the quotes that rereading the text of Brian O'Doherty that I found, and that it's kind of nice, well, in that context to reread it. And it says, it was in the moment that he was talking about the furnitures, the objects that must be in that sacred space in order to maintain the aspect, well, the art consideration of the objects displayed inside that white cube that he was explaining, and also at the same way criticizing. And he says, a desk as its own piece of furniture is the only thing that we must have inside this white space. In this context, a standing ashtray becomes almost a sacred object, just as a fire hose pin in a modern museum looks like a fire hose, but an aesthetic conundrum. It refers that in that case, your work with the fire extinguisher puts this notion, the way that the white cube changed the notion of the object that you are seeing. You use it here in that work that we are going to comment. And if you can show some pictures and let's see a little bit more about this project.
Yeah, of course. Do you see the image? Yes.
Yeah.
Am I sharing? Yeah. Yeah, in a way we can link it also to the bedroom ensemble in a somehow like we can imagine the bedroom as one of the most unspoken space of a domestic interior, and I think in a way we can consider, like, if we can talk about like the white cube as something that actually tried to isolate as much as possible the background from the piece, and vice versa. every detail and every bad aspect of the architecture, any element that is somehow disturbing, of course, is getting into the piece, risking even to become part of the piece. And so for example, I mean, this image is actually a found image. It's not that I decided to produce this piece. I simply realized at the Rijksmuseum that they decided to camouflage the security system elements with white paint, I guess, even though it looks a little bit more gray. But this choice, I thought that was really interesting also to investigate, and I wanted to understand from the museum who was the author, or if there was some sort of decision behind it, and where it came from. Because I tried to propose them through an email to include the extinguisher within the collection. This fire extinguisher was actually placed in the 20th century floor collection, that is like the top floor. And so in a way it fit completely with the pieces that was shown with. And the idea was in a way to write a label and trying to describe the piece within the history of camouflage. And there was actually no answer, so the piece remains as a photograph and an email to the museum. I can jump to, if you want, to another piece that in a way is pushing even further the idea of camouflaging, and it starts from these elements that are trash bins considered to be counter-terrorism, anti-bomb, that were usually, I mean, I saw them a lot in Paris, that they're part of the Vigipirate plan. That is a counter-terrorist plan that involves also the use of transparent bags in order to prevent the displacement of explosive. These are like object on sale that I found online. There are different types because in a way in Paris the actual trash is basically private, or can be expected in any time. So I decided to write again to the Home Affairs, the European Home Affairs, to ask whether this device was actually anti-bomb. And of course they were replying saying that to be specifically anti-bomb, every trash, every plastic, every dump element should be transparent. And of course this was just an appropriate deterrent to this displacement of explosive. I realized two different versions of the trash bins. One is fully transparent, made of plexiglass. Mm-hmm. And another version is made of steel. Is meant more for an outdoor. The idea is, of course, to have more element of them and to involve them into a system, like into an architecture that has its own system of trash, and so substituting them with like the old sort of bins with this one. On one level to mimic this anti-bomb plan, and so to inscribe the building into this anti-bomb Vigipirate plan, but at the same time to put on display what is actually not like what is the removed element of a society, or what is the actual residue of a specific place or a specific institution or a specific building.
Yeah, of course, because you place these works in the corridors or in some place that can be, tricky to discern for the public if that's in fact a proposal from an artist or it's the bin, a real bin, no? As I saw in the dossier.
Yeah, they were placed inside and outside the exhibition spaces, and the email is part of the work. It's usually displaced from them. It's not really like a label of the piece itself, and they're not filled, of course, at the very beginning. They're getting part of the architecture. The people can use them, and the cleaning system should actually also remove them and replace them.
But it's important, that notion that you choose the space where it can work like this, no? Because in maybe around other areas, the public won't be appealed to use it, no? So it's finding the perfect place, no, to position this work. No?
Yeah, usually in an exhibition space, like wherever they stay, really the worst place usually is the best for this piece. So like whether you find a fire extinguisher or other security system elements, they can definitely camouflage close to them. I show them also like in galleries and in a different setting, let's say.
And did they work, or it's completely different, the project in that context?
They do work, yeah. They anyway get filled up.
Okay. Perfect. Then I don't know if some of you want to add some questions to Marcello. Some of the people that has joined the talk. I don't know, or some of the artists, or maybe Alessandra or Gabriele, just feel free to make some questions to this Marcello work, and maybe to add some points that you find interesting to this discussion. Well, if not, maybe we can move now we can follow with the presentation, and well, continuing with this space that we were talking, that of course is the white space. And let me see, one moment. And well, thank you, Marcello, and maybe we can.
Sorry, maybe I have one question.
Perfect.
But it's a bit. It's just because I see this interest in you, Marcello, to write for each works you show us. You write before an email. No, is that something you do
all the time?
All the time, yes.
No, not really. I don't know. I mean, I do know. It's it's a form of inquiry that somehow starts from objects or situation that I noticed, and then to try to understand more, I use the simple way of ask to people and trying to be to sneak in and trying to understand better from the real subject of the question, of the thing. But it's it's not really like it's not that I every time do it, let's say. It depends from the work. These works somehow were demanding an interaction with someone to understand, either to get into a system, either to convince someone to change the use of a work, for example, in relation with the museum, was definitely interesting to get in contact with the artist to understand also his position on the work, and also to, I mean, I have no quotes or references of emails with the restorer, but I do have also those one in relation to the Oldenburg piece. But I thought that was more interesting to, I mean, they're at the same time a statement. It's like, it's a play at the same time. It's not simply, in a way, I mean, it is not, it is an aesthetic, but it's a way to make clear a statement towards a specific issue, whether sometimes it's even rhetoric, or is trying to push really over the limit some sort of consideration. For example, in relation to Franz Fest, the couch, I was trying to contact the assistant of the artist that were in a low, what do you call it, trial against the family estate. And I asked them if, for example, IKEA, like the company producing furniture, the Swedish company, was didn't ever get in contact with them to produce a series of the couch. So I was like, it's a way really to push sometimes the limits and see also which are the reaction. And yeah, it's a while actually. I don't use it anymore, but it depends really from the subject.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's very interesting.
Great. So, well, let's continue to talk about this the space, and well, in dialogue between the dialogue between the wall and painting is one of the subjects, is one of the notions that Odoerzi talks about in his book. And well, he says that it was very prominent in modern art since the moment where the paintings start to not use the frame, and the space around the work tends to be part of the work, you know? And in that sense, he established, well, he shows one case study, more or less, that is the exhibition at Down, which was a space in New York in 1965 of William Anastasi. And it was an artist that he made an exhibition, and I quote, where he photographed the empty gallery, noticed the parameters of the wall, top to bottom, right and left, the placement of each electrical outlet, the ocean of space in the middle. He then silk-screened all this data on a canvas slightly smaller than the wall and put it on the wall. Covering the wall with an image of the wall delivers a work of art right into the zone where surface, model, and wall have engaged in dialogues central to modernism. This history was the theme of these paintings, and this relates also with the question of the history involving the works that Marcello explained, and also this story will serve us to introduce the project of Salvatore Rosa. We have here Juan Pablo Macías, which is one of the founders. I resume a little bit the presentation because maybe some people will join us later on. And Juan Pablo Macías has founded, together with Federico Cavallini, a space that is called Salvatore Rosa. It's a gallery space, but the peculiarity of the specific thing about this space is it is made with no public, so it's only for the purpose of doing art and giving the space to the artist. And you will see that it's the form or the shape of this space. It's like a white cube inside a warehouse. And it's also important to notice that, well, we can see it on the first project of Salvatore Rosa, which was the construction of this space that will serve as the space for displaying the project that will be during the life of this project. And it's important that they use another word, which is the notion of the booth, which is the space of the display used for the fairs. No? And it's important now to establish or to mention that maybe the place where the white cube is mostly now preeminent is at the fair context. No? And well, maybe Juan Pablo, you can introduce a little bit the project, which, as I was telling, it's a gallery, so it has a commercial intention as well, but in a completely different way, because what they want also is to distribute all the benefits as a way, as a cooperative, establishing like a kind of cooperative between the artists that had been involved in the project. And so, well, we can now go to your presentation and have a little talk on this project. Please, Juan Pablo.
Okay, hello everybody. Beatriz, thank you very much for the invitation to this interesting conversation. Thanks Alessandra, Giulio, Gabriele, and all the people involved on this portfolio revision. Yeah, Salvatore Rosa is a commercial gallery, but at the same time, it's an artistic project. And as well, a conversation, a long-term conversation between artists talking about the relationship between creation or the creative act and economy on one part, but at the same time, on the relationship between the creative act and the institution. No? Mm-hmm. So actually the booth was some kind of a joke, no? Because we spotted this space, this abandoned warehouse, and we have already been talking about the gallery since many years, since more or less 2013. But in one way or the other, we hadn't found the moment, nor the space, nor the infrastructure to materialize this idea of the gallery. So when we found this space, it was obvious that it would be very interesting to create a commercial gallery, using this slang inside a space that was, in a way, dangerous. Falling apart, not hygienic, and but it was a space that would permit us to put into like to open up a process of a continuous process of just putting works of art inside this booth and just letting them do what they have to do between each other. No, not only the art per se, but the art or the work of art understood as a very integral process that involves moments of solitude, moments of conversation, moments of mounting the works on the space, and then, of course, talking afterwards about the whole experience. So one idea.
Sorry. Let me share my screen in order to show, if you want, some images of the construction of this space to give a more proper idea to the public that is following our conversation.
If you want.
Do you want to do it yourself, by yourself?
Yes, as Juan Pablo Macias, can I do that?
Yeah.
With the other account, because I have a technical problem with my devices. So, condividere lo schermo. Then I go here.
Yeah, perfect. Great.
So this is the moment when we decided to start constructing the booth. We gathered a lot of materials that were already lying in the place and outside this warehouse, which were pallets and plywood and all sorts of materials. And then we bought this sheet that is used normally for stopping the water coming in through the roof as the most cheap flooring system. And this was in November 2018, I believe. I can go much faster. So as you can see, the place is falling down. It's not a safe place to be. So we constructed it, and then here we have more or less the final form of the booth.
I have only one fixed image. The first one while you were building the floor. Are you seeing the rest of you? Are you seeing other images?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see the cube now?
Yeah.
The constructed cube? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first thing we made project after another, and when we say without public, it doesn't mean that it's not a shared experience. There's a small group of people that is sharing and conversating, and then of course documenting the whole process and leaving this documentation on the site. And in a way, I think it has to do with this research that you were doing on laziness, because, or el ocio, because actually we had no urgency of showing what we were doing. So it was 1 year just working and sharing in complete silence, no, but in a way, structuring an archive, no, of all the process that we rendered public 6 months later.
In a way, I think that the text that you write for Salvatore Rosa, the last of the project that is displayed on the website, because you have continued your activity, but you have to upload this content to your website. But maybe if you want, I can read this text in order to give.
I can read it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, this was like some kind of message that we left when we opened the website and we rendered it public. And it says like this: "Dear friends, we've been working silently over the last 6 months, constructing Salvatore Rosa and producing until now 8 projects. We have gathered together, put the shows up, contemplated the artworks, and dialogue between each other, as we have left the works dialogue between them as well. All this with doors closed and unnoticed. For now, we do not care for wider publics, but in an intimate dialogue, in a one-on-one exchange of experiences. Nonetheless, we want to share this with you through our new website and our future publications. In the meantime, we will continue producing new projects and updating you, and hopefully one day hosting you to share this experience." Are you listening?
Yeah, perfect.
So this was like the first communication of Salvatore Rosa. No, the other projects, I don't know if you can see my, wait, I'm not very well acquainted with this Zoom. So the project started very, evolving very fast. I mean, we had like 1-2 days of display, of installing. Then we would just contemplate the work, talk between each other. The shows, and then just archive it. And I mean, it was one after the other. You know?
Yeah, in a way, all the things that are involved in the process of developing an artistic project, which are not strictly related with the process of being doing the art process, such as the
Yeah.
the communication, the merchandising. I mean, the common things that we see, for example, in some institutions are these, and in these projects taken away, and you're completely focused on the experience of being alone in this place, working with the artists and interchanging experiences, no? And what's important is the broadcast before, no, the act. But I mean, what I like is this idea of being close and being focused on the aspect of producing art. No?
What you were saying about the evolution of the White Cube, no, or the evolution of the museographic institution during the last century, you have to say that we have like a double-side story, because in one way, there's like, since, I don't know, Courbet or post-impressionists trying to find their own spaces for showing the works. You find the avant-garde trying to fuse art with life and denying in one way or the other the institution or the lack of institution, now fusing art with life. And then you see like all the history of the institution that is going the other way around. So in a way, it's like a normativity that is determining how to talk, no, how to construct grammatically your work. And I have to say that the creative act is not only this aspect of the institutional process of communicating art. No? When we say art, we normally think about the museum or the hanged work of art in the museum or the gallery space, or the art system, no? Like all these hierarchical space that in a way is distributing not only voices and what you do as an artist when you do your work, but also how to distribute the profit that is producing. So all of these things are in a way commented with Salvatore Rosa. But I think that one side of the story is in a way a paradox, because the artists have always places that in a way and are creating bridges, institutions.
We are losing you, Juan Pablo. We have lost the connection. Yeah, now yes, but we have lost the sentence that you were saying.
Where was I?
You were saying that well, because it was completely just the last part of your conversation, of your talk.
Sorry for interrupt. I remember you were starting to speak about a paradox inside this two-side story. I don't. Then I lost the connection with your voice.
Yeah, the paradoxes between what artists have tried to research or experiment with, no, mainly after the vanguards, infusing art with life, and the other side of the story has been the institution regulating the presentation of art, thus regulating the creative act. So this is like a paradox that is, I think, what renders this history of the White Cube interesting, no? Because I know that with this experience of Salvatore Rosa, no, and also after many years of working in institutions as a curator or as an artist, I realized that cutting free from presenting a project, no, so writing a paper and blah 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 blah, curating it. I mean, there's like a very long mediation that many times what it does is in a way mutilates, no, part of that creative process. And all the projects in Salvatore Rosa have been done in complete freedom, and but the important thing has been the dialogue that has been, that this is not testimonialized. This is not documented in one way or the other. It will be documented in the future through a series of mails, but I think that the important aspect of art is precisely this conversation and managing to create these moments of just letting like the creative process and the works of art do what they have to do, you know, with not much of intrusion by discursive filter. No, I don't know. It's like when John Cage with Empty Words, he says that syntax is the arrangement of the army. No? So when he tries to make language less understandable or to render it understandable, what he wants to do is like free language from the militarized language. So I believe that in a way, like all these social constructions, in a way, are like a normativity that is regulating how you do your living, no? And in this sense, Salvatore Rosa has been a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Of just doing what you have to do without nobody giving you the permission to do so, or without nobody breaking your balls because you want to hang 2 dead rabbits on the ceiling. And yes, just I can show you that.
Working outside of the system.
Yes,
And
working outside of the system, but always in dialogue with the system, because the economic aspect of the work of art, the profit part of it is like not out of field of the same art. No, art in a way, yes, it's this thing that you do in solitude. It's your intellectual process, but it's always mediating with a reality. It can be a social center, it could be a commercial gallery, it can be a museum, it could be, sorry, I need some water. It can be the system for all that it stands, but I mean, you have to always be careful how you are saying things, that you are politically correct in the things that you're writing down for the project or how you're stating them. And I find this very, how do you say, very
well, non-productive for the art itself, no? For the process.
No. I think that I mean, there's many things involved, no? So, because when you get invited by an institution, you start thinking, okay, but what are the conditions? What are the economical conditions? What's the subject or the thematic about? No, so you start mediating that you stop being yourself, and you start only being the discourse that is, in a way, put on top of the table of the institution. No, and this I find it a little bit boring in one way or the other. These are the rabbits, no? So
and so inside that space, you have proposed some works, some artworks by Gireko Banda, a project by Gireko Banda, also Pedro G. Romero, and other, no, Jacopo Seri, Federico Cavallini, and yourself as well, no, proposing some exhibitions, and Zivek Valadran. So it's really also to name some of the artists that had been involved in this project and in that community that finally you formed together.
Yeah, but you were saying that probably it was like some kind of cooperative, but I would try to not think in those terms, in the sense that at the end we're not denying like the profitable part of the artwork or the selling aspect of art. No, we're only trying to rethink in terms of percentage, no, in terms of distribution, that I think it's the main problem of capitalist society. No? But in a way, it's like a long mediation that at the end is talking in the same terms of the system, no? But
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I think that it's interesting the way that you express that if in case that one of the works is sold, I think it was a half of the amount would be divided in the rest of the artists that have been involved in the project. No, one part is for the artists, another part is to cover the cost of productions, and the rest is for the rest of the group. No, and that's also a model which is interesting as well.
Yeah, we decided to leave the 50% of the artist untouched, and then just have like 30% for logistics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Of the gallery, and 20% between all the artists. No? So somebody told me that it was like a fictitious gallery, but actually it's not fictitious, because things have been happening inside this space, and there's a few sales that have been concreted. So I don't know. I mean, it's an aspect that the economical part is an aspect that at the end is encrusted inside inside the grammar of art. No, you can face it or not. You can be conscient or not, but it's always present in the way that we are constructing, no, or proposing the creative process, no, on the form of these works of art. I don't know if I'm making sense,
sure.
But so probably I can show you, because there was a moment that we got kicked out, so we had to take up the space. But afterwards we broke in again, and wait, sorry, I have a little bit of a mess here. One minute. 1 minute. Sorry for this long time. Well, I wanted to show this. Okay, I found it. Sorry. We went back into the space, and we started doing some works of art without.
Yeah, without that context, no.
Without the booth.
Yeah. Working with the site, no, with the real site of this warehouse.
Yeah, I think I went offline with. I know. Wait, because I have. Okay. Okay, so share. Wait, no, sorry guys, I'm too clumsy with Zoom.
Don't worry. I see now the images, yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting there. So this is one of the last projects. I mean, we had already Jacopo Serri, but we're working on the documentation, so it's not ready. So it's just like very simple, a little bit of poetry painted on the walls of the warehouse.
Yeah.
But wait.
Well, in fact, you can see it a little bit that it's a project that entails, well, some writings on the walls, like a graffiti, you know, more or less, and
Yeah.
intervening the walls that of that space, this warehouse.
Yeah, but the thing is that I did this poetry a little bit like making a reflection on doing things without the idea of public. So public is more like a cipher in a way, because it's like a request when you do, for an example, an application for cultural funding for your cultural project, no? So you need to have a certain amount of public, no? And everything starts like getting named, no, and functioning inside like a big machine. When it's only people, I think that it matters, no. And this work had to do with this reflection, you know, on the idea of public, of audience numbers, and the idea of uniformity in the cultural apparatus, or like in the cultural system that is asking like for a one way of speaking to everybody, of using the same language, of being politically politically correct, and in the way you are expressing yourself. And I don't know.
Yeah, well, for the institutions, the core, well, the importance of having as much public as they could, in order to receive a more quantitative budget, is like a kind of dictatorship also, no? Meaning that in some way they have to do some kind of more mainstream projects, or have to take in mind, or not being so risky their proposals, no? And that's for sure one of the problems regarding public as a quantifier for the quality of the projects, no? And for sure that's the point that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know if any of you have some questions for Juan Pablo. I would like to thank you a lot for your presentation. Well, we must say that the project Salvatore Rosa is still on, so we have to be, well, we will see how it's developing, and well, talking about the public, and in that sense, we can go back to the white cube, and where the absence of the public was in this book of Brian O'Doherty was also one of the subjects, and it resonates in some parts of the text in a completely different way, because O'Doherty says that the gallery turns into a sacred space, more as a church, or as formal as a courtroom, or as mystic as a laboratory, a white, artificial and limbo-like space that was out of the time, and that privilege an experience with the art that is more contemplative. It privileges the sense of view upon the rest of the senses, and in that context, the body of the spectator is not taken into account. And I quote one part of the text: "The space offers the thought that while the eyes and minds are welcome, space-occupying bodies are not tolerated." And moreover, O'Doherty says that this model, the non-importance of the spectator in this context, gives birth to one of the icons of our visual culture, that is the installation shots and figures, the photographs of the installations without the public, no, that we are also very used to see. And at the same time, the modern space was redefining the status of the spectator, and it started to be conceived also as a protagonist, not only an observer eye, no? And here is where O'Doherty starts, or appeals, or start opposing certain type of works under the name of environments. And for example, he's citing some works of Kurt Schwitters, like the Merzbau, or the bedroom ensemble that we have been talking about, Claes Oldenburg, or George Segal installation, that offer a counterpart to that model. And here I want to introduce the practice of another artist that was invited to that talk, that is Alice Ronchi, that confronts some of her works, confront this notion of a space that mainly was built for the contemplation of the art. In her installations, we can perceive a strong interest for the viewer as a body that walks through the works. Her practice is influenced by notions of play and game, and that's also important to notice. I want in that point to recover the definition of play from one of the texts of Johann Huizinga, that is Homo Ludens, and he defines the play as a free action performed in certain time and place that steps out of everyday life and temporarily puts the ordinary world on hold, so that all participants are acting as if they become another thing, taking on a fictional character that can completely absorb the player. In fact, play constructs an artificial reality that allows us to invent and explore our own reality in a similar way as art does. Art and play, or game, are liminal spaces between reality and imagination. And the work of Alice Ronchi deals with this notion, offering an imaginative experience, almost touchable, that introduces the spectator in a dreamy and sometimes childish atmosphere, influenced by the idea of the playground, which is completely the opposite model as we were talking before. And that has also been of a great influence during the last decades, when experience has been gaining importance in the art field. And well, in that case, I want Alice, hi Alice, to introduce two or maybe three projects, but we were talking about one of his installations that he presents on the gallery that is representing her, which is Breakfast on the Grass, Collizione sur l'herbe, which is a work from 2016. And maybe, well, you can maybe show us some pictures and talk about this work in the and how was the process of doing it.
Sure. So I take it immediately. Hi everybody. Breakfast on the Grass. Yeah, it was the first show I made in the gallery. It was 2014, I think. And yeah, can you see it? Yeah, it's working, the sharing?
Yeah, it's working.
Sorry. Yeah, I was at the time still, but at that time I was very much in love with the definition of environment, because if we think about the notion of environment, we must include the man, the viewer, because otherwise it wouldn't exist. And to me, I was aiming creating a show that was very much including the viewer into the experience of walking through. So that time I was in love with, I was making a research on abstract painting from 30s that basically are made of multiple organic composition of abstract shapes. And in my language, the organic shapes are always been close to. I always felt connected with them, because I like that those shapes can actually give you the suggestion of something without declaring. So I was making this research on a deep research on these paintings, such as I'm showing you one of them. Okay, sorry, I didn't make the perfect presentation. Like, this is from Bruno Munari, but many much more important in this. But point is that I started to read this painting as a planimetry in architecture. So to me, I conceived the gallery as the space of the painting, and all the elements were creating an ensemble and a unique landscape. So I decided to express this research with Breakfast on the Grass. That is back to this. It's a playground for birds. That was the game behind in my mind. Inspired by organic natural elements such as trees bench and leaves and whatever, woods mainly. And so I build up all these shapes that they can actually move when you walk through. They move because they are not fixed. And I spread them all over the gallery in a way that the relationship between them start creating a sort of an harmonic dialogue, because I conceive it as a unique work. So no one of all of the cardboard pieces you are looking at, it's one work only, and it continues in the other room of the gallery at the end on the right side. It's not visible here, but it continues. So there were different moments, different point of view, but anytime you stopped, you could actually see relationship, even when all the other objects and sculpture and photograph I insert in the show, I work a lot on creating a dialogue between all the pieces. So speaking of a white cube, I would say that in this case, if I wouldn't have a white cube to install this work, for sure, each element that would have arrived from the outside would have became part of the composition of the Breakfast on the Grass. So much more tricky in my mind, because in this, in order to create this composition, I stay in the gallery. I remember my gallerist gave me the key of the gallery. She left, and I stayed there for 2 days, on and off. And anytime I was moving a piece, the entire composition was changing. So it was very tricky to me. But the aim was to not work only on the single pieces, but to the dialogue between them. And in my research, it was also my thesis, the relationship between putting in relationship different elements made up the definition of landscape. So the environment here was alive by itself, but it was conceived for the viewer to walk through and to give the viewer the feeling of walking through something that somehow was embracing him, even if it must say that in this photograph they look very flat because of course the photograph, but when you were walking through, you were actually experiencing this aspect that to me were really important. And the playground, the role of play is something very important to me, especially in these early works, because because as Homo Ludens, the book you mentioned before, the idea of exploring the play is not just having fun, even if I see a lot of important in this action. The play means also to explore, not just to get to know something, but also to explore it and to meet something and to create connection and elaborating experience. So these are elements that were very important to me. And when we think about the playground here, to me, it was like a sort of playground for birds that actually goes inside a house, but just because everything was moving, was very tiny and thin, and funny in a way. But the idea is that the playground is made of multiple pieces that dialogue together, creating a new one, because you then before distinguish each of them, you can you can conceive, you can perceive an ensemble even before. And that was something very interesting to me, also because it has been conceived for a viewer, for someone playing with. So there were multiple layers. Now I don't want to keep you here too long, but yeah, that.
No, in fact, some of the anti-white cube strategies that at the same time as this book from Brian O'Doherty was written, were trying to do more or less that thing, no, converting the transform the white space in another thing, no. Maybe we can remember the project of also Claes Aldenburg, the street, no, that he brings garbage and some figures made with cardboard into the gallery, and he completely distorts the way the floor, no, was completely full of garbage, of bottles, of plastics, of whatever he found, no, transforming the space of the gallery, no, and that's in a way what you are trying to deal, no, with inside this white cube, this completely aesthetic white cube, no, transforming this with these objects, no. And I want to maybe we can talk about another project, that because you were talking about the landscape, no, the relation with the landscape, and I remember that when we were talking, you showed me another project that you do that that you presented in the landscape, no? So maybe we can see briefly this other project.
You mean Airy Gardens, the one with the animals? Okay, sorry, go take it. Here we are, sorry, didn't know that. Here we are. So the Airy's Garden is a playground. It's actually a playground for animals. This was the way it has been exhibited. In a very small photograph. This is actually a still from a video I made, because in my research, in order to catch the relationship between the element and conceive an ensemble, was important to have a far distant point of view, because otherwise if you would be inside, you were just experiencing them without catching the relationship. So I made this playground that is again expressed by organic shapes. I did install it in in a farm, and I made a video, almost 24 hours video, letting the animal be free in the garden, and then I choose the few still, watching every still of the video for many days, in which somehow the animal became part of the composition. So even if they broke some stuff, but I like the idea that putting in relationship things is not just about making similar sculpture with the same material, but it's a practice, can be a practice that creates an ensemble. And so here the animal, to me, in my point of view, yes, they are important, but from a very quick side, they became part of the composition, consequently creating a new one. So the name is I Giardini di Airy, Henry's Gardens, because this series has been inspired by Henry Rousseau painting jungles. I was in love with the idea that he actually never been in those exotic places, but he used to go to the Botanic Garden in Paris and dream about these shapes and places, and there is a sort of surrealism, magical surrealism inside. It's very imaginative. So that's why
I mentioned this project also because when we talk about site-specific projects, and well, in that case, no, projects that are made specifically for a context, no, as it was, for example, the previous project that we have been talking about, no. But in a way, the concept of site was also in the notion of landscape, because it appears on the first text of Robert Smithson talking about landscapes, no. And so I wanted to maybe to open this concept also to the landscapes, no, to the idea of landscape art in a way. And I just remember that project from your dossier.
Sure.
And maybe I wanted to invite you to talk a little bit about Majestic Solitude, which was one of your last projects.
Yeah.
Because it's maybe different. It has another notion of the space and the role or the attitude that you are looking that for the spectator while he or she is visiting this installation.
Sure. Well, one thing I didn't said about Breakfast on the Grass before, that when we sold the work, that is just one work only, we made a paper saying that I would have installed it anytime, forever, until I will be alive, of course, because in a new place, because every time you move it, the composition, of course, change. And that was also something important to me. It's not that it's going to stay the same. It's about creating an harmonic composition in dialogue with the space. That's why the space is very much important to me. And we saved that aspect with this paper. With Majestic Solitude, is the same space of the gallery, without entering too much into maybe the subject of the show, but speaking more in the idea of transforming the place in an experience. My idea was to conceive the display almost referring to a church, where my 5 elements are displayed as a column of a church, let's say, when you enter inside a church, and then the light was turned off, and the only lightning was coming from the second room, that to me was almost like the end of the church, where the higher point, where it's all about searching for light. And this show were speaking to me about silence, and I really wanted to evoke silence and an intimate dialogue with these elements. So I decided to turn off the light, and we spoke also a lot about to painting black the walls, because of creating the dark, but in order to create the dark feeling, but that was decoration to me in a way. The work, it has been very intense and tailor-made on the space, because the second room was fully, the light was very strong, and I just made this linen curtain. It was filtering the lights, and it was creating a sort of specific lights. And the second room was full of paintings, abstract paintings. They are not visible because were almost transparent, expression of intimate search of lightness and harmonic expression somehow. And they were a strong dichotomy with they were expressing also a strong dichotomy with this first room that was fully different. But the idea was to let them embrace between themselves, because the subject was experience of silence and darkness, and in the same time the knowledge of the joy and the desire of joy and lightness. So I found in all the architecture and elements a stronger human condition. That's why I chose for these 5 elements coming from different religions, and I made them human size. because to me it was the experience of the man, the people coming inside. It was pointed to silence, to a walk through them and to face them almost at the same high, as if you are reflecting yourself into something. And that was important to me.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the importance that you give to the feeling of the spectator, to create an ambience, a light, and a content that affects the spectator in not only the vision of your project, so in other way, it affects the body.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the aim. And to me, the space is very much important. I remember a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, a curator, has invited me to, he told me, I want to make a solo show with you, with your work. I love your work, I love your practice. And he proposed me a museum, a small museum in Italy. And I made a project for him. And then he said, no, sorry, Alice, we can have that location because they are changing director, blah, blah, blah. So he proposed me another one. And then I went to visit. It was a project space. And then I made another project. And then that one wasn't available anymore for other reason. It was closing, actually. And then the last one. And anytime it changed location, I was changing projects, because to me, the dialogue with the space is so important. That the first one was fully dark museum underground, and I have developed a project about the habits, and the second one was completely different, specific. I remember the floor was characterized by organic, almost Chinese shapes, and I've developed something in dialogue with that, and so on. So to me, it's the space is very much important. And when it's fully white, as the one we mentioned from Dorothy essays, is important to turn it into something that fully embrace my work and just not displayed my work. This has been my approach till now. Maybe it will change, but till now it has been like this with this gallery, at least.
Great, thank you, Alice.
Thank you so much to you.
And of course, I encourage you to have to make any questions that this dialogue could suggest you to Alice, that is here presenting his work. If you want to add something.
Let's do this.
Okay, well, thank you, Alice, for your presentation. And then we can maybe move to Sylvia, her practice, because, well, in fact, we have been talking during the day, and it was also really nice, how to, well, because I had asked Sylvia to talk about one of her last projects that is called Light Sourcing, and it's a site-specific project with video art, some of part of the practice of Celia is related with video, and in that case it's based on 3 video that are projected in the space. That is not a gallery, of course. In that case, it's a white cube, but it comes from it's a building, and some of the apartments of this building are open to exhibition. Future Dome, it was the name of this space. And while we were speaking about the notions that O'Doherty was talking about, we noticed that in the book he's not considering the video or the installation of the video that has been so prevalent during the last years. And the concept of site-specific with video, it's completely different, because of course one of the things that the site-specific notion has is that when you want to take this work from the first place, the original place that is conceived for, to another one, you must destroy the artwork, but for the video installations, that is completely different, no? And well, it's nice to know a little bit more about this light sourcing artwork of Sylvia Hell, and starting the dialogue with these concepts. How do you work with the idea of the site-specific practice, the site-specific condition practice within this work?
Okay, thank you. Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay, thank you. No, thank you all. It's really great, and I read this text by O'Doherty, and it was really interesting for me to look at this work Beatriz chose, light sourcing, by a historical perspective. It's always good to have a refresh about some important works. And also it was interesting to hear about the other artists' practice. And now I wanted to say this relation with site-specific, like also Alice spoke about in her case with installation work, sculptural work, but she changed always the project in a different space. I think this is mostly our current notion of white cube also. Mm-hmm. So that also an exhibition in a gallery becomes site-specific. And now I will share the screen. But so, okay, this is the background. It's the basic, the base. No, Beatriz, I prepare something writing, because for me it was really interesting to keep this dialogue with the space, but also with the text. Mm-hmm. This is also very important in my practice, in a way, to start from text. And so you asked me about neutrality. And I think this is a good topic about this notion of white cube.
Yeah, because it's that space for Brian O'Doherty. He says that white cube was born as a neutral space, but in fact is not so neutral, because it affects, of course, the notion of the importance, the consideration of any object that you can find inside, no, this white cube.
Yes, and so I read something, but you can stop me anytime. And about this concept of neutral, the white cube or white space, as we know, is not neutral. This notion evolved like the history O'Doherty traces in his essay. And I was surprised how much I had experienced this story. So in visiting exhibition, in being artist and spectator at the same time, I think it's important to notice that this history is the result of a continuous exchange between the artworks and the exhibition spaces, between artists, gallerists, art historians, critics, curators, etc. And as O'Doherty writes, here there is a, oh no, sorry. I will show you just the text. About this illusion. The white wall's apparent neutrality is an illusion. It stands for a community with common ideas and assumptions. I think the current notion, I said before, is that the white is what the white cube represents. It's not just white and just a cube made of walls. And the importance is given to the surrounding environment. That's why the site-specific practice has evolved a lot. In this practice, you can also put an exhibition. Yes, I said before. Of course, neutrality isn't here. Just the illusion, or better, our confusion, could be neutral. In light sourcing, the imaginary around concepts. So, okay, I would say this work, if you say it's is the result of a residency, a period long 10 weeks. So, and this space was also my studio, and I work inside. And it's composed by 3 videos. And the first has this, start from these words. And the imaginary around these concepts become indifferent to the content of each index image. It becomes a tridimensional shape of their dominant color. Each image is previously reduced to the unit of 1 pixel, becoming a monochrome. It's about the irreversibility of the process. I read, but it's with my thinking about neutrality and choice. I decided the steps of this process and the output model, the aesthetic. The origin data are taken from or by Google. And this is related also for me with this knowledge that, no? Also with the frame.
Yeah, the idea of that Google shows some privileges, some results, and other takes no, with less importance. No, it's the idea of that we don't receive a neutral information. We receive it's more consulted, no, in Google. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of information. It's not neutral. When we search some information, it's not neutral what we get. No?
Yes,
the
yes,
results that we get.
Of course, I think this is the condition we live it in, no? A condition of incompleteness and choice. And how did the algorithm for the image search in Google work? This is a question, because we search something, but how the algorithm works. And there are, of course, rules. And my question is, are rules neutral? But once defined, the rules, respect them could be something close to neutrality. Like my behavior when I enter data into the model. Their inclusion is not in question. So we can go deeper or ignore how the algorithm works. Google gives us results. And normally, as you say, we start looking at them from the first line. And when we think we have found our best result, we click and open it. We usually do searches with the IP of our computer, so the search is linked to us. That is what I did. I decided to choose the first, oh no, sorry, here's better. The first 10 results by the search by image, linked to the words I speak before: bio, smart, algorithm, green, and I don't remember now. And the first 10 results are these first 10 lines you see moving on the screen. Then there is the interval. The interval are all the other results Google give me. And then there are the last 10 images by the result. This is the tridimensional shape after the process, the elaboration process I chose. So each image is reduced by this unit, 1 pixel, and becomes just the information of the monochrome, the color of the image, and then translated in this tridimensional shape by hue, brightness, and saturation. And So now I show you some installation views.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was the video. This is one room with another video. This is the room with the video we saw before. And it starts from a closer point to the lines, becoming più lontano. And so we have also these moments where the interval becomes a monochrome in the space, in the projection.
Mm-hmm.
And even the installation method, this simple strategy of projecting on several walls with different angles, follows the logic that the contents adapt to the context and redefine it. Once outside the site, Futurdom, the work can be hosted in another space and becoming the constant for the space variable. I will show you this. Here you see the space more with the three projection together. And after that, here I installed and showed the work also in the gallery A+B in Brescia, so in another space, but just one of the three videos. And so physically, this projection on architecture will be immersive. Your eye cannot see the work in a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Your eye and your body has to move. The projection light spreads everywhere. The videos perceptually do not have a constant framing. I work also with the content inside, so when you have this moment of darkness, like here on the right, you lose the frame. And quoting O'Doherty about Seurat. So the eye could move out of the picture and back into it without a bump. And for this video, where gestures and the glances at the architecture are filmed, including light and electronic devices, I superimpose spaces, and we have this mirror effect. I will show you another extract from another video. If it is as if we had two forces,
Mm-hmm.
the moving image, film, and the moving body, the audience, within the slower architecture. Slower because also the architecture has a time, no, I think, but it's slower than us. And the last thing, I really like this space-time relationship by coincidences between the viewer and the work, a continuous present without a specific starting point. For these three videos, 1, 10, 16 minutes each, the intersections are always different. This dynamic creates something unexpected. I like to become a spectator too, in a way. And yes. So this is kind of the work. I don't know if it's clear, like how it works in the space, but it's this practice is site specific. It's born there for this space in this specific way, but the intention is that the works change always.
You adapt it to other contexts, to other spaces.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I love the way that this simple strategy of putting the projecting just moving the projection on the wall and how it distorts the architecture in a very simple way, and how it confuses the sense of vision, and it's really nice, and how it works, because it's simplicity also, because it's only the projectors you put them in specific places, and it changes completely the space, and
Yes.
And well, I wanted to add also that this paradigm of the white cube, it has changed also to the black cube, since most of the museums have been introducing in their programs, in their collections, a lot of video and installations that work with the video in the same way as Silvia is doing. So now the space that is the paradigmatic of most of the institutions, that some in the biennials and all that, they must have a black cube, a space that is thought, that is conceived to show cinema, experimental video, or other kind of installations. And it's very interesting as well how we can see, for example, in the work of Hito Steyer and others, how these video installations has been evolving to have, apart from the projection of the work, a set of objects that are making an ambience and environment as well to offer the subject, the spectator, another completely different experience. So in a way, the one-dimensional video is invading the space with these other objects that are around us, and that give also other information about this work. And I think this is also a trend that we have seen in the last years, but it's here to stay, And it's also the idea of the arts and the artists that use whatever media it's necessary to communicate their work, And so you can use the video, you can use installation, and that idea of the artist that can work with all these media at the same time, that we are not specialized with painting or sculpture or whatever. And in that case, in that kind of installations, it's an example. And well, I don't know if you want to add something, Silvia, to...
No, I just thinking about the space hosted me, this living museum, Futurdome, where this aesthetic of site-specific and architecture is really, I work it in this empty space in a way. We speak about empty museum, and this emptiness is really curated in any detail. The artistic directors are really, also if it's not finished, the not finished part are in a way, they know each part of the building. So it's not casual that it's not finished, and the state in which the architecture is now is a state in changing, but it's always curated really in detail. That is something that I perceive really when I entered in this space.
Yeah.
So also that maybe give me the suggestion to look at that space in a deeper way, and to film the space, and to work on it and in it. That's only that.
Yeah, in that case, the space has had a lot of information that it serves to you to do that work. It was not a neutral space. It has its own history. It has its own time for accumulating experiences.
And also you see that this is a traces from an artist before. So because this, no, there are always this stratification and evolution by people working in the exhibition spaces. So.
Yeah, that's really a nice idea to have the marks of the passing of the artists that have been doing projects in that space. It's really nice. I mean, that you are doing like a cadaver exquisite, no? That you are adding information one to the other, no? And that's really, really nice.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if some you had any questions for the artists involved in this talk. As you see, the text of authority gives it opens only the door to a lot of reflections on the practice of them, but also a lot of other interesting subjects are still there to be discovered. So I recommend you also to look at their websites where you find other information about their projects and their practices. But of course, you can now, if you want, to ask them directly, and I would encourage you to do it. I don't know if you, Alessandra, are receiving some questions, maybe.
If I'm not taking the time and the voice for others, yes, I have a question, because I was thinking that you and all the artists involved used many key terms for the contemporary thinking of art, let's say. And I was starting my reflection with the term neutrality, that of course, I mean, possibly all the artists are working against this topic of neutrality, because if we assume that each artworks and maybe also text written in the art sphere, not just to go with the curator and art historian, that is somehow the background of today. And I mean, neutrality is an important topic, because absolutely going against the neutrality gave me this, somehow made me notice how much the idea of invisibility came out from this talk. Because of course invisibility can be taken and interpreted as in a wider sense. I just took some note, like working in liminal spaces that can be institutional, but mocking to be institutional. Sometimes they are not institutional, like in the case of Marcello, no? Because using the trash bin, but inside an institution, somehow it's like, I don't know, you can of course recall many Duchamp ways of action, but also the latest golden, how is in English? The golden Bicatelan toilet, the golden toilet, you know? It's like working in between the institutional critique, but in a much more invisible way, or maybe in a more sensible, visible way. Just like you say, very slightly visible. I found it's a very interesting method of working that recalls me many examples from the 60s and the 70s artists working in the conceptual field. And also it's interesting that Juan Pablo with Salvatore Rosa was mentioning Girico Vanda, no? That of course is an important example in this case for his performances, when he was just working or just doing very super simple. And here again we have the simplicity you were mentioning for
and of course they were performances that were meant to be not noticed. They were communicate, not in the press. They happen, and that's it.
And this is the idea how important is the topic of invisibility if we widen it a lot in these possibilities, in the idea of what is the power of art today still, because it's still functioning. This is still a system and a strategy that can open up several reflection. And I also see in the case of Alice, and then I leave you this, it's not a question, it's just much more a personal reflection after this wonderful talk. And also in the case of Alice, it's interesting how this visibility, invisibility can be played with the lights on, the lights down, even in an institutional place, how to create the shadows, how to create the sight, the sense of visibility and the sense of the sight of the observer. It's just like how to module the way of looking at things. I think this is possibly one of the heritage, one of the most important traces of conceptual art still living today. That maybe today it's not conceptual art, maybe it can be post-conceptual, maybe it can be something completely different, but somehow it's this idea of invisibility and the transformation of art pieces, the idea of I can change and module my works depending on what's happening. It's like the flowing somehow. This is what I found very interesting in this. So thank you all for this conversation.
Who wants to ask to Alessandra? Maybe at some point. Well, of course, that was one of the notions that was besides this talk, amongst others.
Yeah, well, only to comment on Irgi Comanda. Irgi Comanda has always been a model to me. And I really much appreciate all the work he did, because when you are in the art school, you're always looking at history of, in a way, of know-hows and some kind of like power in this knowing how to do things, no? And Irgi has always had this humble aspect about his work, no? This invisible or very delicate and subtle gesture that I've always loved. But what I've loved about his work, it was more like this kind of invisibility, you know, of just being like a bird flying or whatever, no? And then staying pure after he was discovered by the mainstream and the market and all this stuff. So this is something that I really, how do you say, that I really look up to, no? How to keep a practice, no, or like a series of gestures in such a state of purity, no, that I don't know. I think that he would have continued to do what he did, even though if he wasn't rediscovered in a way, no. So only that.
Yes, and in the case of Salvatore Rosa, I understand also the mention to Comanda as the idea that you are working in a marginal space somehow. Marginal, like not central, I mean. You can build your own gallery, but you decide where, and you're not depending on the market laws that will suggest you to realize it in the city center or in the, let's say, in the suburbs, but where there is the art system living actually. So you can see this idea of I can hide. I need to realize a project. I conceive it. I realize it. I work a lot, but then I hide. I think it's really the power of the artist to do something and hide it because you want to show it as you want, as you need it to be shown somehow. I don't know if it's clear. It's something like I don't completely leave my freedom to the institution, even if I collaborate with them. Or maybe even if I use some of their strategies, or maybe if I build my own institution, it's still a process of self-institutionalization. It's not just going completely against, but it's just using the strategy to go on and do your own free path. I mean, I think it's very important also for people, especially for the ones who are called to write art history for tomorrow, to remind the power of artworks and artists to change slightly, but with these slight changes creating something extremely powerful, and with the power to destroy all the canons we have in our mind. I think this is central, at least for me.
Yeah, I think that the most important aspect of creativity is sharing. No, and here there's like a paradox because it's at the same time close to the public. But I realized that when you start distancing from the centers, no, the less structure you find in reality. That's the same for the cities. No, if you start going to Abruzzo or to other cities in Italy, you start seeing how people are changing roles. So in one moment of the day, the sindaco is a boss, but in the second hour of the day, he's a bartender in his bar, and he changed completely the role that he's fulfilling. So as an artist, when you start going outside of the centers, you start really breathing some kind of liberty that puts you in the condition of really talking in a different way. No, and I think that the artists that come to Livorno to work, or when I go to Abruzzo instead of going to Paris, you find yourself doing stuff that you would not do in the center, that you would probably auto-control yourself, or you wouldn't be allowed to do so. And I think this is important, not to just distance from these centers. And it can be seen as, I don't know if invisibility, but in a way, yeah, probably has to do with that. It's not being like observed all the time, no, and just behaving differently in the way that you're sharing your creative process, no? Because a museum is always not necessarily sharing, no, your process as an artist, only displaying. And there's many voices involved there in terms of hierarchy, in terms of economical interest and blah, 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 no, and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And another strategy to change or to make this evolution on the art is, as well as working from the margins, no, maybe propose some changings, no, and that's what makes me think about the work of Marcello Spada, no, making some proposals for the museum in order to change some conditions, no. So that's also another strategy. No, if you can change it from outside, get in to change it.
Yes. I may read one comment from the chat that was done by Federico Pozzuelo, that he is an artist actually now based in Turin too, and some of us already know Federico because he was participating to the portfolio review last year. So it's a very welcome comment, especially because it opens up to, I think, an important reflection, because he wrote, I believe that both institutions and artists need liminal or border spaces. This is important, I think. I don't know if Federico wants to say something. You have to unmute in case.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's important. No, it's just that's what I said. That of course we are talking about the margins, and it's not everything going around the center. But as you said before, this is like also like a really well-grounded practice. No, like we know perfectly that in art margins are especially important. So I think that the marginal is not marginal anymore. No, we're like it's really how can I say it? It's really demanded in a way. And I think this is really interesting also when we talk about the spaces, no, but because we talk about a kind of underground that is needed. Depends, of course, the kind of work, no? It's like for example, the work of Alice. You can see the work of Alice, for example, is really thought for a really how can I say, like a more galleristic or museistic space. But on the other hand, Salvatore Rosa, you can see that this is like punk, no? But at the same time, you can recognize that work as an artwork perfectly, and you can put it in the center. I mean, in my mind, I'm not an art historian, but anyway, yeah, it's only this little reflection about it.
Sorry, what do you think when you say institutions need liminal or border spaces?
That in a way they are also researching for those spaces. I mean, I think you can see how institutions expanded their practice and they moved from the museum. I mean, they're willing to find how can I say, yes, like marginal practices. And I don't think that this marginal practices always moves to the institutional space. So that's what I was trying to say, you know. Okay. I don't know if I was clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Federico, for your point. No, Alessandra, if you want to, maybe we can finish this talk, or?
Yes, let's see if we are all tired, maybe, because I'm happy that it was longer than expected, because it was really interesting to hear all of you, and I think it was a shared experience, the pleasure to hear and also see what are these art practices, especially reading through the concept, the curatorial view that you have, which is very strong. I would like to say you're not, of course, one curator working with topic easily, but you, as I know you personally, you go you usually do deep researches, deep studies on this topic, and the construction of this presentation clearly demonstrated it. So it was absolutely double interest to see how the artist involved it, moved inside your construction, and how you thought about this construction. It was wonderful. So thank you again to all of you. And I don't know if there are no other questions. I may just suggest you, if you wish, to follow this project, which is this, let's say, digital outcome from the portfolio review that today was, of course, the first first event, let's say.
The first meeting, yes, because next week you will have the other one with Crypta, and the rest of the artists involved in this portfolio review. Yeah. And well, maybe the most important thing is that the space of the art is always evolving, and now, in fact, we are living a crucial time in that concern, because we are now justifying this moment. The space the space of the art as a liminal place to get in contact with the other, and with the other social, and with the other in meaning the knowledge of the other, and that's maybe has to change because of this pandemic. We don't know what are we doing on the next months. And for example, the fair event has been completely dismantled. All the fairs that has been, well, since May, they are changing to online or digital platforms. So in fact, that's the subject, the space, and the space of relating ourselves, the space of relating the community, the art community, will be changing a lot. And so now it's one of the subjects that I think that we have to rethink as well. How can we continue sharing our work? How can we find other places to be in contact as well? And well, that's maybe the point to close this talk.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. And so this is a goodbye. If you want, we can see again in the 17th of November. On next day, we will publish more information. But of course, the meeting will be curated by Crypta. And there will be again 4 artists from the portfolio review. And so we wait for you on the 17th of November. If you want, we are here. And thank you again to all of you for being here, and hope we can see soon, digital or by live. I still prefer by live. I'm not completely devoted to the digital, but
I think we all prefer, the live, being in touch, being all together. But of course, it has other positive things, and that opens to other people to join. And for example, for the educative model, it's I think it's perfect to that kind of events.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much for the artists to participate in that experiment. That kind of curated talk. And of course, thank you for all your suggestions and comments during this process, and of course for your work, which is really interesting. I like it a lot, this opportunity to be talking with you, and let's be in contact.
Gracias, Beatriz.
Thank you.
Gracias, Alessandra, Julio.
Really
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you,
Ciao,
Beatriz.
ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.